I'm Sueh Li from Huru, and I'm from Malaysia. Thanks for having me in the BITS conference. So today there are two parts of my presentation. The first part is actually related to the discussion panel yesterday, which is typography landscape in Malaysia. And the second part is in search of the Malaysian type. So let me introduce myself quickly. I graduated from Type and Media, and my type design journey started from here. And during my time in Europe, these are very common questions that people will ask me, like what languages do we speak in Malaysia? What script do we use? And do we have our own script like Thailand? And I usually start explaining from the people. We are very multiracial, and we have Malay, Indian, Chinese, and other minority races. Let's take a walk in Malaysia so you have a rough idea how is the typography landscape there. So I will start with warning signs first that you have already seen the picture yesterday. So this is our danger sign. It is a very good example to explain the multilingualism in Malaysia, because the info on the danger sign are very important that need to be understood by every single person regardless the race. So we have up to 5 languages on our danger sign, which is Malay, English, Chinese, Tamil, and Punjabi. And when there are a lot of information, the layout could be very complicated like this, because the language comes from different writing systems. So I think this one is pretty well done, because the scripts are sitting at the right position according to their nature. For example, Jawi is Malay in Arabic, and Chinese were read from right to left are sitting at the right side, whereas English and Tamil that were read from left to right are sitting at the other side. So if you look at the info at the bottom, you will see that Jawi was surrounded by other script in the middle because of the organic and fluid texture that can fill up the triangle space nicely. And for warning sign that have less info, Chinese is always placed in between Malay and English as a separator. So it's clearer for the reader to pick up the info quickly according to the language they are familiar with. And the letter form for Malay English usually very condensed because they need to achieve big impact in limited space. And the following signs are from colonial period. From 1850 to 1957, Malaysia was under British colonization. And during this period, the signs are not only multilingual but also multi-script, because Malay are still remain in Jawi. And the hierarchy of the language always start with English first and followed by the rest. And in some old town that is like pedestrian friendly, there will be secondary info on the shop signs to explain the business in multiple languages. So the typography texture during this period is rich and complicated, as the anatomy of all the scripts are different. But this texture is uniquely Earth. And in 1957, Malaysia achieved its independence from British colonization. And the signs during this period have less languages because the literacy rate goes up. Most people know Malay and English already. And the hierarchy starts from Malay first because that is our national language. And there is also less script because Malay was already Latinized. And the combination of languages also depends on who are the target audience. And when you go to certain racial specific place like Chinese temple, you will only see monolingual sign like this, because people who go to Chinese temple are mostly Chinese. And during British colonial period, lots of Chinese and Indian immigrants moved to Malaysia and work in different sectors. So some visual culture that we see today are imported from there, but being localized. So this is one of the examples, which is Indian barber shop that usually have very overwhelming signs, that there are lots of colors and that each language was set in different typeface. but somehow they sit together peacefully, just like how the people in Malaysia get along well, harmoniously. And actually, this visual aesthetic came from India. So this is the salon signboard in India. So it's very colorful with hand-painted lettering. And the type choice of Latin in Indian shops always have very fancy ornament details to match with Tamil script that is round and curly. And pawn shop is another example. They are usually managed by Chinese Hakka people. Hakka is a dialect, and it came from China. So this is how the pawn shop looks like in 1920s in China. And the Chinese character pawn is usually very prominent. But when it comes to Malaysia, the pawn shop signs there have multiple languages because they target to lower income group, which is not highly educated. And Chinese signboard is a cultural symbol that originated from China as well. It's mostly hang on top of the house or shop to tell the origin of the family or the name of the shop. For example, this signage was found in Malacca, where Babang Nyonya community resides. Babang Nyonya is a Malay Chinese group. So that's why there is Jawi in this Chinese signboard. And this one really outdo the traditional signboard. This is a shop that specializes in picture frames. So the info on the left and right really explain the business very well. For me, it looks more like installation art. And this is my favorite category, which is handwritten or DIY. For economic reasons, hawkers tend to make their own sign to advertise their business. And the signs usually are not pre-planned and imperfect, but I think there is the beauty of it. And so this is a sign from a hybrid store that provide all kind of service like photocopy, lamination, or even repair booths. And this to-let sign have an interesting title that the Chinese was incorporated into English, so it became a hybrid typography like this. And this one from a mahjong shop, supposed to read Go Cup Mahjong, but I think it's because enough space, the uppercase L become lowercase l. And when you walk at the back street in Malaysia, you often see this kind of handwritten or stencil massage advertisement with some hints of sex service. And this is a menu from hawker. Because in Malaysia, our food price always goes up maybe 2 or 3 times per year. So it's more practical for the hawker to make their own menu so they can change the price constantly. But I think it's quite a nice touch that the hawker highlight on the first letters in both Chinese and English. So the Malaysian typescape can be summed up as multilingual and is a hybrid of different cultures together, and it shows our economic status and also our ways of life. So living in such an environment, how does it influence myself as a type designer? So this is the part 2 of my presentation, which I will show like 4 projects of mine. The first one is returning to the root, which is my type and media final project, Kelly. In this project, I didn't really incorporate any Malaysian identity into it, but this is the first time I start to question about my identity, like where is my root as a Chinese Malaysian? Maybe because I'm away from home for too long. So I think Eastern sensibility is something that I want to incorporate into the typeface, not really in the shape, but in the process, how I approach the whole thing. So in this project, I explore the transition from calligraphy to a text typeface, and that includes that in the family. And I start with calligraphy writing first, sketching and digitization, and here is the outcome, which have a display version and a text family. So the Calli display is created based on traditional calligraphy that retain the warmth and quirkiness of broad nib pen, whereas the text version is the refined version of the display typeface for long text usage. So this is the second project, Multilingualism. Thanks to my time at typography with Carmen Hui and Dan Zihao, we started research about multilingualism in Malaysia and done some explorations with it. I learned a lot from them to see typography and type design from a more linguistic and cultural point of view. So this mini dictionary is called Women's Words, and it's a project that explores feminism and language. So we created a series of new Chinese characters to reflect various contemporary issues faced by women today. And I will take one example to explain. So this Chinese character means women. And then the second one means space. So when combined, it means space for women. So this word was used to indicate some space that was allocated for ladies only for safety reasons in Malaysia. For example, ladies parking or coach for ladies only. And other than that, we also conduct workshops, multilingual workshops in colleges to explore hybrid typography. Like how can we merge the multiple languages together and then blur the boundary of it and create a unique writing system that belongs to Malaysia. And then here are some ideas from the students from the workshop. And then Zihao refined the idea and then digitize it. And after that, I start to venture into non-Latin typeface. So I created this Jawi typeface called Rakyat. Rakyat means people in Malay. During my time in Arabic type design Beirut. And it's an intensive 6 weeks program that we had to learn different aspects in Arabic type design and came out with our own typeface at the end of the program. So my idea is I want to create a Jawi typeface to be used in protest and propaganda poster. Because actually I always join my friends in this kind of social movement. So I observed that the protest banner always set in multiple languages and multiple scripts to show that this is the voice from the people in Malaysia. And I started by setting the characteristic and the voice of the typeface, which is robust, firm, edgy, and humanist. And the typeface was based on nice calligraphic style because it is easy to read, and I want to retain the fluidity of the calligraphic style. And the weight is extra bold, and you have a heavy horizontal stress, so it stands firm. And you have angular curves here and there, so it has an edgy voice, and it's high contrast. And most importantly, the character sets include the 6 extra characters that Arabic don't use. So here is an example of the application in propaganda poster. And then in the protest in 2016, I have a chance to test you the typeface. So the last project is a commission project. It's typeface for Grab. Let me give you a bit of background. Grab is a Southeast Asian ride-hailing company. It's like Uber of Southeast Asia. And in 2016, my taxi was rebranded into Grab, and they approached me to help them in the logo type. So this is what they have drawn like internally by the design department. So the idea is based on the notion of being on the road and freedom. So I have done like a few sketches. Sorry. And they go for this version at the end. And after that, a team of designers and me, we continue involved in the rebranding campaign and also the brand launching in January 2016. And we also set the identity guideline for the 5 countries in Southeast Asia. So early this year, they contact me again because they need a typeface for their sub-logo type. So we developed a basic character set that expanded from the logo, which is a solid one. And together with my friend Shinjin, so we draw the typeface together. And then to retain the same visual language from their typography, there are a few features like contextual alternates, which they are always drawn with the flowing letters. And the ligature retain the fluidity with the typography. And the most fulfilling part of this project is we get to see our work in the daily life, especially when we order food. So it sort of become part of the Malaysian landscape because Grab is like everywhere in Malaysia. So what is Malaysian Type? I still don't have the answer yet, but perhaps what is more important is I learned to understand and appreciate Malaysian culture more. And I also learned that typography and type design is not only about technicality and craft, but it also reflects our written voice that carries one's history, culture, and language. That's all with my presentation. Thank you.